Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to retopologize a high poly sculpt. I use ZBrush on this and um, make it into a low poly, possibly game ready sculpt. Okay, so what I'm going to use here is I'm using also Max 2012, and you can do this if you have 2010, 11, and I think in 2010 though the shortcuts are different. I'm going to use PolyDraw on this and then just retopologize it using a single plane and drag it around across the surface while it maintains the shape of the high poly sculpt. Now why we do this is because the high poly sculpt is not game ready. As you can see that it's got nearly 800,000 polygons, and the way that I did this is I went into ZBrush's Decimation Master and actually reduced it from 2 million. This was originally 2 million. The head and the I got some arms here somewhere. There you go, and the arms with some fingernail detail on there. So so that's not game ready at all. And what I want to do eventually is make a game ready mesh and something that can animate and move well, and it has the surface information of this high poly sculpt onto the low poly so that it looks like it has 2 million polygon detail on a something maybe maybe 5,000 polys. So that's a huge difference. So first off, I'm not going to show you guys yet how to use ZBrush and decimate it and so forth, but I'll show that in a different time. But for now, what I'm going to do, and also if you notice that I've hidden away my track bar. I don't need it right now, so if you can go to Show UI, and then you can show your track bar if you want, but it kind of just adds like that inch that I don't want on there. I want my inches, and so I'll just use the track bar. I do need the ribbon, and if you want the main toolbar up here, that's fine, but then you're really going borderline into expert mode, which you can just do Control X. So also you've noticed that I don't have my control panel up here, but actually it is on the other side of my screen. Alright, so I'm using dual screens, so maybe for now I'll go ahead and I'll just show everything what I'm doing here. So let's get started. First off, let's select it. Now it's going to be chugging a little bit because it is around 800,000. And what I have to do, and if you notice that when I select it and I choose freeform up here in the ribbon, the new Max ribbon, which is just like Polyboost, a plugin from a long time ago, that three things come up. So there's PolyDraw, Paint Deform, and then your default, which is just nothing. Alright. What you can do though is you can also save. If you have settings on here, you can save them, and then every time it opens up, it will just default, because by default this is 0 and this is 10, whatever. But if you have like a certain specific way of polydrawing, then you can do that. Okay, so if I deselect, then it goes away, right? It's just default. So let's select it, and it has to be an editable poly to work. If it was an editable mesh, it wouldn't work. If it's patch, it won't work. Let's go to PolyDraw, and first off, what we need to do is draw on. We want to draw on the surface of something, not off the grid or draw on selection. We want to draw on the surface, and we want to pick whatever surface it is. Now I deselected it again, yada yada. Let's go and pick it. So it should say head arms, because this is what I named it, head arms. And now let's go ahead and just draw our first polygon. But also, if you notice, if you mouse over these tools, because these are so new that these tooltips come up, and that's really helpful. I mean, not so much over here, But in the extend, which is another tool that I'm going to use in PolyDraw, this is what I use a lot. Pretty much 90% I'm going to use this. 98%. But what we want to do is make a new object. We don't want to make an element. If you guys, and at this point you should really have some good Max knowledge, and if I'm throwing out some terminology on here, you should probably know, maybe like 75% of it. Except for, PolyDraw if you don't know. We want to make a new object. We don't want to make it a new element. We don't want to make a part of, head arms. I want to make a new one. I'm going to name it like low poly, right? So I'm going to make a new object, and it's going to name it box. I already made one before. This is called box 02, and it has no information whatsoever. It's nothing. So I'm just going to name it low, or LP underscore head arms. Right? LP for low poly later on when naming conventions are really good for baking. So you know which one's your high poly and which one's your low poly. Alright. So let's go ahead and now draw our first polygon. I'm just going to zoom in on the eyes, and I like to start off the eyes. And just click and drag a line, and you'll see there's a black line. Alright, now I've, like click and drag and let go. Some people, they keep dragging around and make Z's. Just, it's fairly simple. If it's like Microsoft Paint, right? That's how it looks like Microsoft Paint. Now, whenever you make a quad, it creates a polygon. Now, to get out of this, I want to get out of this because I really just want to use one. Right click, and now you see that you've gotten a polygon that is conforming to the surface. You see how that is very, very close to the surface. Okay. Alright, so now the thing is too that I've offsetted it by 0.015. That's really, really close. I mean, even like 0.0 is really close. Now it's not going to change anything if you change it to 0 right now, which doesn't seem, because I have this turned on. What I have to do is actually right click out of this and then change this to 0.0. Let's see. 0. Oh, not changing, huh? Let's see. It used to be really, really simple. Now it's not anymore. Okay. Let's get out of this. Let's deselect it. Let's go select it again. I'm gonna hit H and bring it up because it actually doesn't exist. Like, there it is, LP head arms. And let's go to PolyDraw. Okay. And it doesn't like, wow, it doesn't like it when you type it in while you are actually, for some reason this is a 2012 thing. And 2011, you can type it in whenever you want. So I might have to go back to 2011. 2012 is giving me these really dumb workflow things. But yeah, like I'll just change it to 0.1, so it's really, really, really close. And I'll draw my topology and just click and drag it. There it is. Right click, and then it should be there. Now, you're probably wondering, like, what's next? What's the next step? No, I want to retopologize all of it. Yes, so what we're going to do is we're going to extend it. Okay, so let's take a look at the extend tools real quick. When you just use it, okay, let's put our mouse over it again so that it actually comes up. None, drag a border vertex to create a polygon. So let's go ahead and click. Like, whoa, it dragged a vertex, right? But look at it. It's not really the shape that we want it to. So that's probably not a good choice. That there is going to be an instance where many instances where you would like that. But what if I just want to, like, if you guys are familiar with plane dragging techniques, just, drag an edge and then clone it. It's the same way. If you just shift, it says shift, and then drag a border edge to create a polygon. Let's go ahead and hit shift, click and drag, and there it is. Wow, fantastic. Okay, but let's say that, hey, I don't want, I don't want this vertex placement here and that vertex placement there. Can I move my vertex so that, yes, you can. Move it over again, and if you look at all the way down, and if I put my mouse over it, it's going to disappear. So if you go all the way down there, you'll see that Control-Shift-Alt-Drag to move a vertex. So let's move that. Whoa, oh my goodness. Okay, so a couple of things we know. We can shift drag, right? And we can also move vertices. Shift and then drag, and then if you want to remove a polygon, hold down Control and then click on the polygon. And again, it's all here. I just read, read a book or something. Start reading instructions, and go online too, just to see what other people are doing. But this was, I've been doing this technique for the longest time. What I would do is do a high poly sculpt, topologize it. Now let's go back to ZBrush and then sculpt it again so that I get a better topology. Been doing that for so long. So, and also notice that when I drag a vertex, right, that's what happens. But what if I drag a vertex here? To fill in that corner, there you go, filled in that corner. We can go ahead and do that. We can also actually drag an edge loop by holding down Control Shift, and then drag an edge loop. So, a couple of things what we know right now. From a single polygon, we can shift and drag. Okay, we can shift and drag again. We can delete a polygon by holding down Control and clicking on a polygon. We can fill in a corner, right? But what happens, so let's say we have something like this. We have a gap. Alright, let's say, just create a gap here. Okay, I want to fill this in. So if we hold down Shift and Control, that doesn't happen, right? Let go, it doesn't happen, it just overlaps. If we click and drag, nothing happens, they just overlap. So what do we do? Well, hold down Control-Alt, again over here, if you see Control-Alt, drag between two edges to create a polygon. Pretty much a bridge. So you can bridge from one to another, and there you go, fill in gaps, right? You can do that and fill in gaps. You see how fast, and really it's just these three buttons, Control-Shift-Alt, that I'm doing this with. Alright, so in no time, really, you can retopologize a million polygon head into something game ready to maybe around 5,000, right? 5,000, maybe 2,000, 3,000 polygons. Depending on how well articulated you want the face to be. Again, it really depends on how it's going to be seen. If it's going to be in the third person, then from far away, then you really wouldn't need to have the head to be highly articulated. And then if it's going to be for a cinematic, then you do need the head to be highly articulated. So you might want to do two versions of, of a low poly head. Something that has like LOD0 and LOD1, maybe even like LOD2, right? Level of detail. So, just then go around and follow the flow of the face, follow the edge flow of, of everything, really. Like, you just don't shift and drag all the time like that, and then, just go ahead and do that, and do this. No. You don't do that. Okay, you gotta follow the flow of the face so that the articulation, the way that the movement of the eyes, movement of the mouth, how the nose expands, contracts whenever somebody smiles, right? The nose gets wider. You need to have that flow on there whenever somebody, like, let's say, gets angry, there are some wrinkles over here around the nose, at the top of the bridge, and then also the nose kind of flares up a little bit, right? And the jawline as well, like, you got to follow the jaw so that whenever they're talking, the jaw slightly moves. The mouth does a lot of the movement, but the jaw does slightly move, and it needs to move at a hinge. It doesn't move up and down. It moves at a hinge. Like there's a pivot over here, and it kind of swings backwards like that. And not a lot, but it does. So again, that's just one of those things that you have to study anatomy if you're going to go into character modeling. But not only that, but let's say that you've created a high poly car, vehicle, whatever, and you need to retopologize it. You have to follow the design pretty much, like the subtle curvature changes of a car, or even of a vehicle like a tank or an airplane. It has these subtle changes to its surface that you should know about, and you should see on the high poly surface anyway, that you need to follow. Alright, so that's what retopologizing is all about, and it's just following the underlying structure inside of a high poly so that it is more efficient and it's easier to deal with when it comes to the low poly version of it whenever it goes into game ready. Okay, so let's see. Let me go ahead and just delete this. I don't need it right now. Let me show you what I've got. I'm gonna unhide all. Alright, so that's what I've gotten so far. This was like half an hour of work. So just a couple of things too. Let me show you guys my workflow a little bit. Let me get out of this polydraw. Alright. Or did it freeze? Because okay, it just takes a while. Come on, there we go. It just takes a while for it to like kick, but as you can see that it's really close to the surface. I have some really good clean topology around the mouth. It follows the mouth around. It follows the jaw, follows the eyes, and then the nostril over here. When it follows around the wings, the nostril. Let me go ahead and isolate this, and right click and then isolate selection so that it's easier to move because I have that high poly and then low poly underneath. The ears as well. You see that I've framed it, and I've done it actually separately. That I built this structure first and then the ear, and then just conform the ear to the structure. Now, the thing about like the big myth about low poly models is that you can't have triangles. I have a bunch of triangles, as you can see, and I don't have triangles where it counts, as in where it needs to really move, or there's a certain flow or articulation that I want to preserve. I don't have triangles on it, but certain places you do need triangles on if you need to optimize it, like in the forehead. You don't need that many lines going up vertically like that, so because it's just going to double up. So I just triangulated this, and then it kind of reduced it in half, and triangulated this and reduced it in half, right? You don't really need that many. It just, forehead just goes up and down. These lines dictate the movement of the forehead, and like maybe up here on the other side and so on, but for that it doesn't really deform like the eye. It doesn't deform like the mouth, so I don't need it to be quadified. Especially around the ear too. The ear barely moves, if anything. So I do have some triangles on here just to cap it off, and that doesn't really matter. Even I have triangles in the back of the ear. It's not going to be mostly seen because there's going to be hair underneath there. And for the most part though, I do have mostly quads, and as you can see, I follow the jawline. If you need to, go ahead and make some end gons on here, or end poles, like 3 stars, 5 stars. Let's see what else I have. 5 star. There's a 5 one here. So if you need to, go ahead, but don't have too many of them. That's the thing. Alright, so that's pretty much, I'm right now at 741 on this head, and I still have to do the neck, and I still have to do the face. I mean the hands. So I'll leave you guys with that, and just, if you have any questions, let me know. I do have a YouTube account and so on, so let's go ahead and just go ahead and email me, or even like just through my Facebook. Alright, good luck guys, happy hunting.